Good morning, gents. You listen to Man Talk Monday on the Gird Up podcast. It is Monday morning. I hope you're having a great start to your week. Today, you're going to notice we have a special guest for Man Talk Monday, but you'll hear all that in just a second. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast, make sure that you are hitting subscribe and leaving a 5-star rating or review. Make sure you find us on social media. We're active on Facebook and Instagram. We have a Facebook community also that you should be joining, making sure that you're in there with the brothers. Becoming the men that God created all of us to be. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do that either on Patreon or you can do that by sponsoring episodes. All that information is at the end of the podcast. Feel free to contact me and let me know how you would like to help if the Lord lays that on your heart. With that being said, gentlemen, I think we're ready to get going. Enjoy our episode today, Man Talk Monday on the Gird Up Podcast.
You are listening to the Gird Up Podcast. To gird up is an ancient way of preparing oneself for hard work or a battle ahead. Our work is to reclaim masculinity in the modern world and to live out our calling as men of God. Here you will find a community of believers working hard to become the men that God created us to be. Now it's time to roll up your sleeves and let's get to work. All right, I am Charlie Ungemak.
And I'm Vince Husak.
All right, and Vince is a guest host here. We're going to have Jay Fry back in a couple weeks, but we love having Vince while we got him. Our word today is integrity. Webster defines integrity as the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles and moral uprightness, or the state of being whole and undivided. First thoughts?
That without hearing Webster's definition, I would have come somewhat close to that if I was thinking of just a practical day-to-day definition of it. Because when I think of integrity, what I think of as the kind of core concept is being the same no matter who I'm with or around. So whether that's being, around the house with my family, or if that's out in the community, or if that's at my school, I'm looking for and striving to be the same person around them as I am in any of those other spheres and as I am when I'm just by myself, which comes back to that.
So maybe I'm crazy, but I think a good way to attack this might be Batman villains. You've got Bruce Wayne, who we won't even talk about today, but you've got my two favorite Batman villains are Two-Face and the Joker.
Okay.
The Joker is never not the Joker. The Joker is always the Joker. He might be evil and wicked, but he is the Joker. He's going to stay the Joker, and he's always going to be the Joker, and he's always going to act like the Joker.
Yeah.
The Joker may not be good, but he has integrity.
Certainly.
Two-Face has zero integrity because you never know who you're going to get, right? And that's part of what makes his character compelling is you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know when, you don't know where, you don't know what.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with real Batman instead of the Dark Knight, then you lose that a little bit. But you don't know which Two-Face you're going to get because he's two-faced. He could show up and be professional. He could show up and be the full anthropic, or he could show up and be an uber villain. And so I think that's exactly what we're talking about. Is there's a whole lot of people in the world who show up. Like you can talk about the guy that shows up in church on Sunday morning, although that's beating a dead horse already. But guy that shows up on Sunday morning and lives a completely different way. But most guys listen to this podcast. If you care enough about it to be listening to this, you're probably not that guy. You're probably the guy who talks one way but lives another way. And I think what immediately strikes upon my heart is greed and sex. Right? Those are the two easiest ways, greed / jealousy and sex, are the easiest ways to lose our integrity.
Yeah, 100%. That would be, speaking from some personal experience, looking at both of those things in different phases and different eras of my life were certainly things that I have come through. And so I think that, it probably is very similar for a lot of people that are listening, where those are big stumbling blocks that can get in the way.
Gosh. We're burning pizza here. Just a second. Yeah, I know GarageBand detected feedback. I'm setting off a friggin' smoke. All right, we're back in action. Talking about integrity. So, the idea behind integrity being there aren't any surprises, right? What you are is what you get. What I know I am is what I really truly am.
Yeah.
And not having any surprises there. So why is that important for a man?
I think what that is to me is that integrity, I think, goes hand in hand with trustworthiness and just knowing that in a given situation, I can trust you or you can trust me to be who I am always. And I think that a big thing, and it's a huge temptation and it makes sense as a temptation, is that when the circumstance is bigger, when the moment seems large, when there's, the potential boss in the room, or where there's, the date in the room, or where there's this big opportunity in the room, there's this temptation to, like, quote unquote, turn it on and be something bigger or flashier or more exciting or more interesting than we are. But I think what happens in those moments, and like what we have a big cultural problem with like social media and a lot of things, is that if we're creating this picture of who we are that's not congruent with who we actually are, then can I really trust you? And that's where I myself see a lot of moments, and have worked really hard, especially over the last few years, to work really hard on integrity, is that I want to be somebody that everyone around me can look at and can trust in any moment to be who I really am. And if I have to look at you and go, when the lights get bright, or when you think that the moment is bigger, are you going to change who you are and be somebody that you're not, and do this chameleon thing to try and fit in or make people appreciate who you are? That worries me a little bit about, if I can't trust you in the big moment to be who you are, then why in the small moment can I trust you to be who you really are? And so to me, integrity comes back to can I trust you to really be the man or the woman or the just the person that you are right now, in the big moment and in the small moment, when the lights are on and when the lights are off? Are you going to be who you say and who you show that you are?
Yeah. I think for me, that battle's been fought in the realm of reading my Bible. Yeah. For a long time, there was this weird thing going on where I would read my Bible in public, but I wouldn't read my Bible necessarily in private. And that always bothered me. And not that it's not that I don't read my Bible in public anymore. In fact, I try and let people see me doing it.
Right.
But I'm also really intentional about, is it part of my routine? Is it part of, what? Because I think about my last couple of years of college. When the weather was nice, I would go sit on a park bench somewhere on campus and read my Bible. And I didn't understand anything I was reading, because all I was thinking about was, these girls are seeing this guy over here, pretty good looking guy, if I don't say my soul myself, and I'm reading my Bible. What a great catch I am, right? But then not living it out anything, and never reading my Bible myself in person. And so as a growth point for me is, if I am and now I talk to you guys about reading your Bible every morning, right? So I need to read my Bible every morning, and I do, and nobody sees me do it. Nobody would know. My roommate's still asleep. Nobody would know, and nobody would really care if I stopped reading my Bible every morning. But it's a part of my daily life. That's integrity, and it makes me who I am and what I ought to be, right? And so then having that integrity there translates to the rest of my life. Is what I say I eat what I actually eat? Is what I tell parents I'm doing in the classroom what I'm actually doing in the classroom? Is what I tell the government I'm getting paid actually what I'm getting paid? It's all phases of life. When I tell a young lady this is what I'm thinking, is this really what I'm thinking? All that kind of stuff. And understanding that there is, we can get away with lies. We can. It's just a reality of life. We can get away with lies all the time. But that's going to change who I am and what I am. And it's going to change everything from my own like self-thought, like what I think and feel about myself, to the actions that actually carry out. Once I start making excuses for myself and saying, I don't really have to do that. It's not really a big deal. I don't really need to be accountable. I don't really need, like, that's not really my responsibility. Once I start saying and doing that, all the wheels are going to come off. We're going to start heading in a direction we don't want to be going.
And the biggest piece of that, I think, is that you can get away with it in the moments that don't matter. But the people that are close to you, if you're married, your spouse, or if you work closely with people, your coworkers, or the people that are around you, your best and closest friends that you're with or you're speaking to often, they see through all of the facade stuff. And so they know who the real person behind all this is. And so if you are this person that's turning it off and turning it on and changing who you are for the circumstance, those people near to you who in theory are the most important people in your life, you can't lie to them. Right. I can't lie to my wife. I can try and put on a picture of being somebody that I'm not, but she sees me all the time, every day, and knows what's going on. My closest coworkers see every day what's going on. My students see me every day and they see what's going on. And so if I'm someone different, they know. And so the people that don't really matter in these like quote unquote big moments or in the small ones, yeah, I can put on a show and they don't know what's happening because they see small snippets of what's happening. But that doesn't really matter. The people that are like the closest to us, that when someday you're looking for somebody to give a eulogy about your life, the ones that are closest to you are the ones that are going to know, am I going to have to lie at your funeral? And I don't want to put somebody in a situation, a pastor that I had growing up, one of his whole big things that he kept circling back to was live your life in a way where the pastor doesn't have to lie at your funeral. And I couldn't help but take that as just a deep foundational thing of like, man, the people that are close to you, they know what's really going on in your life, or at least they should. And if they do, I don't want to live this life where they go, man, yeah, like the world thinks he is really great, but when you get him behind closed doors, turns out like all that glitters is not gold, and he's not who he puts himself out there to be.
That hit me right in the feels, because I'm one of those guys that has my funeral planned, oh man, be the guy that nobody has to lie at your funeral. Nobody has to be like, yeah, he's a good guy. He's not really a good guy.
He was a good husband. He loved his work. He was a big baseball fan.
Can everybody tell the truth when they're talking about you when you're gone? Can everybody tell the truth at your funeral? That's a big question. That's a big question. And then, do you have secrets that nobody knows either? You know, and that goes into the accountability point. We harp all the time about having accountability partners and having brothers that see in the dark places, right? And has seen in the dark spaces. Do you have that? Are you really being transparent? And I think that's part of integrity too, is that transparency. Do you have relationships where you can, admonish each other and talk about the things that are going wrong, or have somebody pointing out where you are lacking in integrity? Like, what are you doing to, who's your razor shaving those rough edges off, right?
Yeah. That's been a huge thing for me. So I currently work with some of my best friends, and before we were coworkers, we were good friends, and we were part of just this part of the body of believers that was being able to be in a situation like that where we could be bearing each other's burdens and wrestling with the real authentic pieces of what does it look like to be a man of integrity. And it was a really cool thing being able to come into a work environment and go like, all the worst things in my life, all the deepest, darkest parts of me, a bunch of these people already know the bottom of who I am, or at least the bottom of what I've been so far. And I don't have to have any moment of wondering like, oh no, like if they find out who I really am, all of a sudden people are going to lose faith or not be able to trust in who I am. Like we've already come to this point of vulnerability and integrity where we land in a spot where I can go, you know what, you know the deepest, darkest points of me, and I know pretty much all of the deepest, darkest points of you, and we can look at each other in the eye and go, you know what, I trust you to the bottom and I trust you to the top, and we can now use that to be able to just move mountains.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right. Any last thoughts on integrity?
Man, I can't stress again just how important and how valuable I think this is, to be living a life where you look around and the people around you look at you and go, I am the same person in the big moments, in the small moments, in the hard moments, in the easy moments. I'm there for you the same way that I would be if you were a millionaire or if you had $10 in your pocket. I'm who I am, and you can trust in that.
I love it. Gentlemen, glad you joined us. Hope you have a great week. God's blessings. Gird up. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to the Gird Up Podcast. If you like what you're hearing on our podcast, make sure you're sharing it with friends and family, men in your life who you think need to hear our message. You can find us on social media, on Facebook under the Gird Up Podcast, and there's a Gird Up community as well there where you can interact with other men on the journey toward Christian manhood. You can find us on Instagram as girdup_like_a_man. If you'd like to help us bring our message to more men just like you all around the world, you can hit up our Patreon account. Type in www.patreon.com/girdup. And finally, please leave a 5-star rating or review on whatever platform you use to listen to our podcast, whether it's iTunes or Spotify. What that does is it helps us get more attention in the podcast world and bring more men to our message. Thank you again for listening to our podcast. Thank you for all the ways you support us and help spread the word. Until next time, go gird up and be the man that God created you to be.